If I can request everybody to be seated and maintain silence so we can have the dua now. Thank you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. يا علي يا عظيم يا غفور يا رحيم، أنت الرب العظيم الذي ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع البصير. وهذا شهر عظمته وكرمته وشرفته وفضلته على الشهور، وهو الشهر الذي فرضت صيامه عليه، وهو شهر رمضان الذي أنزلت فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان، وجعلت فيه ليلة القدر وجعلتها خيرا من 1000 شهر. فيا ذا المن ولا يمن عليك، من علي بفكاك رقبتي من النار، في من تمن عليه وادخلني الجنة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم رب شهر رمضان الذي أنزلت فيه القرآن وافترضت على عبادك فيه الصيام، صل على محمد وآل محمد، وارزقني حج بيتك الحرام في عامي هذا وفي كل عام، واغفر لي تلك الذنوب العظام فإنه لا يغفرها غيرك يا رحمن يا علام. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إني أفتتح الثناء بحمدك، وأنت مسدد للصواب بمنك، وأيقنت أنك أنت أرحم الراحمين في موضع العفو والرحمة، وأشد المعاقبين في موضع النكال والنقمة، وأعظم المتجبرين في موضع الكبرياء والعظمة. اللهم أذنت لي في دعائك ومسألتك، فاسمع يا سميع مدحتي، وأجب يا رحيم دعوتي، وأقل يا غفور عثرتي. فكم يا إلهي من كربة قد فرجتها، وهموم قد كشفتها، وعثرة قد أقلتها، ورحمة قد نشرتها، وحلقة بلاء قد فككتها. الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا، ولم يكن له شريك في الملك، ولم يكن له ولي من الذل وكبره تكبيرا. الحمد لله بجميع محامده كلها على جميع نعمه كلها. الحمد لله الذي لا مضاد له في ملكه ولا منازع له في أمره. الحمد لله الذي لا شريك له في خلقه ولا شبيه له في عظمته. الحمد لله الفاشي في الخلق أمره، وحمده الظاهر بالكرم مجده، الباسط بالجود يدا، الذي لا تنقص خزائنه ولا تزيده كثرة العطاء إلا جودا وكرما، إنه هو العزيز الوهاب. اللهم إني أسألك قليلا من كثير مع حاجة بي إليه عظيمة، وغناك عنه قديم، وهو عندي كثير، وهو عليك سهل يسير. اللهم إن عفوك عن ذنبي، وتجاوزك عن خطيئتي، وسفحك عن ظلمي، وسترك على قبيح عملي، وحلمك عن كثير جرمي عندما كان من خطئي، وعمدي أطمعني في أن أسألك ما لا أستوجبه منك، الذي رزقتني من رحمتك وأريتني من قدرتك وعرفتني من إجابتك، فصرت أدعوك آمنا وأسألك مستأنسا لا خائفا ولا وجلا، مدلا عليك فيما قصدت فيه إليك، فإن أبت عني اعتبت بجهلي عليك، ولعل الذي أبت عني هو خير لي لعلمك بعاقبة الأمور. فلم أر مولا كريما أصبر على عبد لئيم منك علي، يا ربي إنك تدعوني فأولي عنك، وتتحبب إلي فأتبغض إليك، وتتودد إلي فلا أقبل منك، كأن لي التطول عليك فلم يمنعك ذلك من الرحمة لي والإحسان إليك والتفضل علي بجودك وكرمك، فارحم عبدك الجاهل بجد عليه بفضل إحسانك، إنك جواد كريم. الحمد لله مالك الملك مجري الفلك مسخر الرياح فالق الإصباح ديان الدين رب العالمين. الحمد لله على حلمه بعد علمه، والحمد لله على عفوه بعد قدرته، والحمد لله على طول عناته في غضبه، وهو قادر على ما يريد. الحمد لله خالق الخلق باسط الرزق فالق الإصباح ذي الجلال والإكرام والفضل والإنعام، الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى. الحمد لله الذي ليس له منازع يعادل، ولا شبيه يشاكل، ولا ظهير يعاضد، قهر بعزته الأعزاء وتواضع لعظمته العظماء، فبلغ بقدرته ما يشاء. الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أنادي، ويستر علي كل عورة وأنا عصي، ويعظم النعمة علي فلا أجازي، فكم من موهبة هنية قد أعطاني، وعظيمة مخوفة قد كفاني، وبهجة مونقة قد أراني، فأثني عليه حامدا وأذكره مسبحا. الحمد لله الذي لا يهتك حجابه ولا يغلق بابه، ولا يرد سائله ولا يخيب آمله. الحمد لله الذي يؤمن الخائفين وينجي الصالحين، ويرفع المستضعفين ويدع المستكبرين، ويهلك ملوكا ويستخلف آخرين. والحمد لله قاسم الجبارين مبير الظالمين مدرك الهاربين نكال الظالمين صريخ المستصرخين موضع حاجات الطالبين معتمد المؤمنين. الحمد لله الذي من خشيته ترعد السماء وسكانها، وترجف الأرض وعمارها، وتموج البحار ومن يسبح في غمراتها. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. الحمد لله الذي يخلق ولم يخلق، ويرزق ولا يرزق، ويطعم ولا يطعم، ويميت الأحياء ويحيي الموتى وهو حي لا يموت، بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وصفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك، أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى، وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت وسلمت على أحد من عبادك وأنبيائك ورسلك وصفوتك وأهل الكرامة عليك من خلقك. اللهم وصل على علي أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين، عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبأ العظيم. وصل على صديقة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين. وصل على سبط الرحمة وإمام الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. وصل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي، هججك على عبادك وأمنائك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائمة. اللهم وصل على ولي الأمر القائم المؤمل والعدل المنتظر وحفه بملائكتك المقربين وأيده بروح القدس يا رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم برحمتك في الصالحين فادخلنا وفي عليين فارفعنا وبكأس من معين من عين سلسبيل فاسقنا ومن الولدان المخلدين كأنهم لؤلؤ مكنون فاخدمنا ومن ثمار الجنة ولحوم الطير فاطعمنا ومن ثياب السندس والحرير والاستبرق فالبسنا وليلة القدر وحج بيتك الحرام وقتلا في سبيلك فوفق لنا وصالح الدعاء والمسألة فاستجب لنا. وإذا جمعت الأولين والآخرين يوم القيامة فارحمنا وبراءة من النار فاكتب لنا وفي جهنم فلا تغلنا وفي عذابك وهوانك فلا تبتلنا ومن الزقوم والضريع فلا تطعمنا ومع الشياطين فلا تجعلنا وفي النار على وجوهنا فلا تكببنا ومن ثياب النار وسرابيل القطران فلا تلبسنا ومن كل سوء يا لا إله إلا أنت بحق لا إله إلا أنت فنجنا. محمد وآل محمد وجل. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إني أسألك أن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر من الأمر المحتوم في الأمر الحكيم من القضاء الذي لا يرد ولا يبدل أن تكتبني من حجاج بيتك الحرام المبرور حجهم المشكور سعيهم المغفور ذنوبهم المكفر عن سيئاتهم وأن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر أن تطيل عمري في خير وعافية وتوسع في رزقي وتجعلني ممن تنتصر به لدينك ولا تستبدل بي غيري. أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينقضي عني شهر رمضان أو يطلع الفجر من ليلتي هذه ولك قبلي التبئة أو ذنب تؤذبني عليه. اللهم صل على محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم أدخل على أهل القبور السرور اللهم أغنِ كل فقير اللهم اشبع كل جائع اللهم اكس كل عريان اللهم اقض دين كل مدين اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب اللهم رد كل غريب اللهم فك كل أسير اللهم أصلح كل فاسد من أمور المسلمين اللهم اشف كل مريض اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك اللهم اقض عنا الدين وأغننا من الفقر إنك على كل شيء قدير.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Before we carry on with our program, just a couple of reminders that you might already be aware of, that there's no food or drink to be consumed in the chapel, please. And if I can kindly request whoever's, or those of you who have left their shoes in the corridor to please put them in the shoe room. Just don't want anybody to trip on those. Thank you. And the conference room is available for parents with young children should you need to use it. Can we please welcome Sarah to share her Quranic reflection with the salawat. Thank you.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So the verse I have chosen for my Quranic reflection today is verse 26 of Surah Takwir, which is Surah number 81, which simply says, فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ? So where are you going? So I have to be honest and say that I didn't even know this verse was in the Quran until about a couple of months ago when I started looking for a verse to discuss today. But when I came across it, it stopped me in my tracks. This verse felt like God was addressing me directly. فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ? So where are you going? Now I would like all of you to pretend, for the sake of this talk, that your life ambition is to complete a marathon, a triathlon, an Ironman, or whatever else you can think of. Now preparing for a marathon is a long journey. You have to watch how you train, how much you sleep. You have to watch who you surround yourself with, because all these elements and many others will affect your final performance. And life is the same. You have to carefully watch who you surround yourself with. You have to work on those daily habits that can sometimes seem boring and repetitive at the beginning, but are the key to your success. We know, for example, how what we eat affects our spirituality, and we especially notice it in this month of Ramadan. Our training consists of our daily acts of worship, like praying, that we have been told since childhood will bring us closer to God. But how often does it happen that we can't even finish 2 rakat salah without getting distracted by our own thoughts? And I have to be honest, I have spent most of my life praying out of fear of punishment if I don't pray. And it is only very recently that I have managed to feel that connection with God in those brief moments of full concentration. I think most of the audience is of a similar age to me, and the Quran does highlight 40 as the age of maturity in verse 15 of Surah Ahqaf, which is Surah number 46. And yes, we say life begins at 40, but the real meaning of that is that you start to realize at that age what is truly important. فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ? So where are you going? God is reminding us that there is no other way than towards Him. We have started this race and got distracted by so many things along the way. We realize that whether it is our spouse, our children, our career, or whatever else, or any other thing we have been chasing, they were mere distractions of this world. And don't get me wrong, of course they are part of the pleasures of this life, but they are not the goal. Verse 28:60 reminds us that we have been given Verse 28:60 reminds us that what we have been given in this life is adornment, but we know that what awaits there is much better. And that's when our acts of worship start making sense. The same prayer that felt like a chore in the past becomes a direct connection to God. In our youth, we want to try so many things. We think that we have our whole life in front of us and that death is so far away. But now we have that strong realization that this world is full of deception and that death is just around the corner. We have learned that nothing in this world can give us full satisfaction apart from that embrace from God. فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ? So where are you going? Now, if I come back to my running analogy, when you cross that finishing line, it becomes all worth it. The years of training, the early mornings, the exhausting race itself. Now imagine that feeling amplified a gazillion times. We might have felt that warm embrace from God on and off throughout our lives, but imagine that embrace for eternity. You reach that age where you see your parents' generation returning to their Lord one after another, and you have also learnt along the way that death can come to anyone at any age, and you feel it in you what you have been told so many times. Death is the only certainty. If you observe a child, you will notice that in a room full of toys, they might get distracted momentarily, but eventually they will run in their mother's embrace for comfort. Likewise for us, we have been distracted by far too many things, and it is now time to leave the distractions behind and to run straight back to Him. فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ? So where are you going? Now I'm sorry, I'm going to use my marathon analogy one last time. When you race, you will see people struggle along the way. Injury, exhaustion, some people will believe they can't finish the race anymore, and then a gentle soul will stop and offer a drink, help them get up if they have fallen, or offer to walk the rest of the way with them. And that's who we are for each other. We are all heading in the same direction, although we all have our own path. And making the journey easier for each other makes crossing the finishing line sweeter. And therefore, I would like to thank all those who have made my path easier so far and will continue to do so. I would like to thank Tehsin and the T4C team for this opportunity. And I really hope that whenever you feel lost, you will remember this short yet powerful verse, and that you will remember that the only path worth pursuing is the path of God. فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ? So where are you going? Thank you for listening.
Now, before we carry on with our talk, children age reception to year 6 can please make their way in the dining room for the sessions, accompanied by the parents. And year 7 to year 9 to please go in the conference room for their tafsir class. And if I can please request parents to make sure to pick up their children after the talk, please. Thank you. As usual, I'm going to ask you all to please move forward, especially the gents, before I call our speaker. You can move as well. Yeah, ladies can move forward as well. And if you can please welcome Brother Arman Kazmi to please deliver his talk with the salawat.
In the name of the one who's far beyond any name can describe, who is the source of compassion, and towards whom we express our gratitude. Bismillah Rabbil Mustadafin. Fa'ina tazabun. Where are we actually going? I didn't know that this was the actual Quranic reflection, but I think I'm going to talk on something very similar and ask ourselves, where are we going? I was actually hesitant, and still am actually hesitant, to be here in this capacity. I'm not sure why are you even listening to me. And also, I'm also very skeptical of this way of communication. Like, where are you going? My question is, why are you listening? And how long are you going to listen till the time for change comes? Finally, we have been listening all our life. And in this capacity, where it's like sermonizing capacity, where the speaker sits and talks to you for 30, 40 minutes. And it's also very interesting because I have been on the listener side more. So when the speaker is speaking, time feels less. But when the listeners are listening, half an hour feels like 2 hours. So it's interesting how time varies between one who is speaking and one who is listening. So this has been my only question, is for how long are we going to listen? And eventually when it started, this whole tradition of sermonizing, maybe this was the only way. But currently, at this time, how much of knowledge are we consuming? Maybe you were listening to some podcast, hopefully Thinking Islam, or you were listening to some majalis online, or reading some Instagram post. Everywhere you are just consuming. And then here also you sit for 30 minutes just consuming. Aina tazabun. Why are you listening so much? What are you actually looking for? And what it results, eventually results in commodification of knowledge, where truth stops to awaken us. We have been listening so much. I hope, because one sister said that it's around 40 years, so I'm assuming that it must be around more than 23 years that we have been listening. The Prophet ﷺ did his, 40, he started his campaign, and 63 he ended. So we have been listening more than his campaign, or more than what he preached for. And we are still listening. From different sources, constantly bombarded by different sources of knowledge. And one of the results, that's my hesitation as well, one of the results of this is that we start making judgments and opinion. Instead of becoming human beings, we become opinion walking on 2 legs. And what's the difference between an opinion and a human? Is opinion with judgment is always closed. We already have, how many people, 30, 40, 50? Already there is an opinion, already. I don't know what the guy is speaking. Or how long are we going to listen to the same thing? Or maybe just AI, the facts are not right, all those things. All of you are loaded because you must have been listening to for 20 years. But that's not being human. And if we go by this approach of opinion, which is formed through this listening, constantly listening, I'm very critical of it, and that's my hesitation. And this opinion, even when we go to Surah Baqarah, when the angels, They said, "Qala inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun." They had opinion about human beings, that they are going to cause bloodshed. And that opinion, because of that opinion, they made that judgment. And God said them, and God showed that this approach, because of whatever method it is, it's not the right way. You have to be open. And then they realized, we have no knowledge except what you have taught us. Knowledge is very limited. There is a problem with knowledge as well. And that this has been captured very nicely by Allama Iqbal. Actually, Asghar Bhai, who is present here, he told me that make sure that you have some Urdu shairi. So because of him, you have to suffer the torture. I'm sorry. So Allama Iqbal carries this when the angels asked the opinionated angels, if I say, when they said that these human beings, which was in a way right, if you look at the world right now, they had a point. Angels definitely had a point that they are going to cause bloodshed. And Iqbal says, "Tu rahnavar de shok hai, manzil na kar kabul, Laila bhi hum nashi ho to mehmil na kar kabul." Oh, you who are yearning for journey, don't accept any destination. Don't accept any judgment. Don't accept any finality. Laila bhi hum nashi ho to mehmil na kar kabul. Laila means even if your beloveds are with you, don't use that as a reason for comfort, to not strive. Because sometimes our beloveds become the reason for stopping the strife. Subh azal ye mujhse kaha Jibrail ne. On the dawn of creation, Jibrail told me, "Jo aql ka gulam ho, wo dil na kar kabul." A mind that is captive, a heart that is captive of mind, don't accept that heart. Because mind is always after knowledge. Aql always wants to catch the known, but it's the heart that gets bewildered by the unknown. And we are constantly in this listening mode. I hope someday it changes, and definitely that day will be time for change. That we go away from this hierarchy of speaker, listener, I don't know, and it's also sometimes very male-centric as well. And what it results in is an aspect, what it changes this whole paradigm which has been there on for so many years, it creates a form of habituation. It becomes a habit. Okay, before I go ahead, how many people think that, just a show of hand, I'm sorry for that, that good habits make life interesting? Okay, no one, only one hand. Okay, that's interesting. And how many people think that bad habits make life interesting? So I can get that, yeah. We have been seeing the trend, aren't we? So we have shows like Lucifer, how evil is captivating. We have now Netflix documentaries on Joker movies showing how actually it's the evil man. That is very interesting. Nice humans are just boring. But this trap of approaching life in good and bad habits, I believe habits in itself, that's how I am basing, this is the prelude. Habits in itself are bad. Or not bad, but something that dulls the mind. Anything that becomes a habit. It's unfortunate because of this self-help trash we are being into, like these 7 habits of highly effective people, all those things. Habits dull the mind. Anything that becomes habitual, it loses its life. And I think Sheikh Haider in the last of the tafsir was saying very beautifully, they say now Muslims are going to yoga, meditation and all those things, deep breathing, mindfulness, all those fancy words. Is because why? Is because salah has become an ada. When something becomes a habit, it loses its essence. And a mind that is habituated just becomes dull. So even if the truth comes in front of him, even if God comes in front of him, he's like, that's not the time. I have to have my coffee. That's not my habit right now. That's how. That happens. And if we are habitual or habit has become a way of approach, then I'm afraid I don't have much to offer actually. But if we are choosing to go beyond and question the very attitude that makes us habitual of anything, life loses, I am saying that life loses its meaning if anything becomes habitual. The excitement of life gets lost if anything becomes a habit, whether it's a person or place or anything. So on that basis, I begin my whole structure. The topic is towards self-discovery, religion, and escapism. There are three nouns, I think, here: self-discovery, religion, and escapism. So I'm going to unpack those nouns and let them go moving. The whole talk is inspired by the chapter 2 of the Holy Quran. So let me begin. If my peers can help me here, the first term that I'm going to look at is religion. So let me ask you this question. What problem do you think a religion is solving for you? If anyone can help me here, that's my question. What problem? I believe everybody here is a religious person. Whatever you mean by religion, we are here fasting for past 15, 16 days, taking so much effort. What problem are we actually solving? What problem is religion solving? Anyone can help me here? Is there any? Yeah, please. How to live your life. A guidebook for how to live your life. There are other guidebooks as well, right? Which are beyond religion. So why is this specific guidebook that also makes you fast and stay hungry for 30 days? It's quite difficult, a lot of efforts. But yeah, guidebook for life. Any other? Because any other? I know everybody has an answer for it, because the questions is generally not about an answer. Questions are actually specs through which you see a reality. A question brings a spectacle in front of you. And through the question, I ask you, what do you see? There is never an answer to a question. It provides a framework to look at things. How are you seeing that thing? Somebody gives you a nice question. It's the best thing that can happen because it provides you a lens. Oh, okay, now it looks different. No, never an answer. So let this be a lens of what problem religion is probably solving. I asked some of my friends as well this question. I keep asking this question to myself as well. Studying religion, this has been my biggest problem. And are we actually problem solvers or creating problems? Imagine tomorrow you wake up in a world where there is no religion. No debate of Shia Sunni, finish. No suhoor, finish. No namaz, finish. No fear of hell and heaven, finish. How many worries will get away if you wake up tomorrow and religion just finishes away? So is religion, many of the wars right now, also some of them have a religious context as well, not blaming them on religion. But what problem is religion actually solving? When I'm ill, I'm not going to a religious person. Or is it an insurance policy for afterlife? What currently in my present life, religion is actually solving which can't be solved anywhere? One of the answers that it's like it also provides its identity in current world. Religion, if I ask somebody is asked like, well, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Sikh, I'm a Christian, it provides an identity and makes you escape through that identity, escapism. And that identity is based in history. Look at our sermons, the problem-solving sermons, the literature, vast amount of it is just based on history. It's just about past. For past 20 years of my life, I have been listening to who took Fadak, who took this, we will not be able to solve those debates. All my life, we have been just listening to those. It looks like every time we are doing a Ghusl Mayyit, every time, just about something in the past. And Quran is actually critical of it. In the same Surah Baqarah, God says, that was the nation that has passed. For them is what they have earned, and for you is what you have earned. And you will not be questioned about what they used to do. amma kanu ya'malun. You will not even be questioned about that. But all our discussions, very hot debates, are based on just what the past did. How Muslims were really glorious in the past. How we also invented drones. How we invented everything in the history. There was a golden age of Islam somewhere down in the history down the line. We did everything. Plastic surgeries, everything we did. Everything, but it's in the history. Please help me. And how can we focus on something that is in the past to act as a source of inspiration without looking at what's in the present? How many of the discussions or introspection goes about what's in the present? We discuss exactly what's happening in the present right now in my life, what is related to it. And as an approach, we have in this form of escape through history, because we can't see the present right now. Right now, the Muslim past the Muslim present maybe doesn't look really glorious. Let's go jump to the past. We actually had a civilization. We actually had a lot of many things. It's just an escape. And what it does, it results in a form of reductive, what you call reductive spirituality, or where there is no scope for the present human being and a situation. For us, no scope. I'm suffering this I'm constantly spending 3 hours on my phone, for example. That's my worry. That's what's bothering me. Even if everything finishes tomorrow, all the religious discourse, you still have to go to work tomorrow. That's my problem. I have to wake up early. That's my problem. Would that problem be taken seriously, actually? Are we taking those things seriously? No, because through history, we reduce an individual. It's because of this approach in philosophy, theology, whatever, they abstract human beings. Sometimes you ask someone, who is a human being? And they will say, human being is a rational animal or a rational biped animal. This rationality is that actually goes in the very crux of usul fiqh as well. Rationality is something that we have to be proud of. We are the only reasoned beings here. And it's enforced on us. Then who is the person who gets fearful? Who is the person who gets petty, jealous, emotional? Is that not a human being? Does rationality accommodate that? And when you define a human being as a rational being, you will definitely overlook all those other things. You will reduce it. You will suppress those tendencies as well, because that doesn't mean being human. Does that? Sartre has used interesting word, is the human being is defined by his situation, or last situation is a French word, is that it's constituted through your sphere of freedom, your medium of existence in whatever way you are existing. God didn't make it a general human being. Every human being is specific. Their situations are specific. There can't be one medicine that works for all. Can there be? But through history, we reduced everything. Imagine the subject which was there at the time of Prophet, living in a tribal society, wearing something. There was actually no tap water at that time. So what was the form of wuzu? Different issues were there. And look at us now. No banks, nothing. Now in the structures we are. For past how many years? We have not been even able to thought about the economic structure. In current times, we are a homo economics. We are an economic being. Everything controls by economy. But never talked about it. How economy, many of the wars are because of economy. How much of time have you, and how life depends on it, or even different aspects of it, the state, the rationality. We don't want to look at those things, how they impact us. Everybody today is using AI. Is everybody using AI? Hopefully. Bewildered by it, fascinated by it. The technology, it's a boom. But at the same time, do you know this technology has been used for wars as well? The current war in Iran was actually made possible because of AI. It's because of this technology, this amount of destruction has been possible. Because it's giving us comfort. So once the bombing happens, it's at that time we'll think about technology. But if you look at AI now, the capabilities of all this technology, of all these warfare, the way we are living is responsible for what is happening. It's in a different way connected to all our livings. What's happening right now there is how we are living our life, whether it's economics, whether it's banking, whether it's state. Sometimes they have these predictions. Sometimes they say that, okay, once the world is going to go for a war. That's an astrology. In 20 years, you will see the world, there is going to be a war. Yeah, definitely there is going to be a war. That's there in the structure. State structure is like that. Don't reduce it to and shy away from the responsibility of how violent the whole state structure is. How much violence we are surrounded by. And that's the present condition. We don't want to look at ourselves. And that's how we escape. How much time do I have left? 10 minutes, okay. And we don't want to see it. We want to escape it. Tell us a good story. I don't want to associate with what is happening. This is not us who is doing us. Human beings. We are really nice people. Give us a good story. Then it's an entertainment. Take us to a spiritual retreat. A la-la land of spirituality. I want to feel good about myself. I don't want to look at myself. But if you look at Dua Kumal and how it goes on to a journey, it shows you who you are. Don't suppress it. Look at it. How petty you are, how anxious you get, how violent you get at times. But we all use religion as a source of escape, to shy away from these things. And what are we escaping? Because time is less. Even religious knowledge also, philosophy, theology, all these dry way of talking about God. The most boring ways of talking about God. It's an escape. God was never a problem. Even if you go by Quran, existence of God was never a problem. All these fancy words, longitudinal, latitudinal, horizontal, vertical, what does this mean? Nothing. Nothing, it means nothing. Let me say it out here. It's just fancy words to deceive people. And then we get confused in whether it's going horizontally or is getting vertically. How do we reach God? Through these latitudes or longitudes. God says, wherever you look, I am there. Oh, let's go to some spiritual retreat. God says, I made it really easy for you. Just do a salah, I am there. If God is everywhere, He's in every situation. So in every situation, it's possible to see God. But these words, and what are we escaping? Is escaping the mundane life. The mundane life we don't want to look at. And the question that haunts us, what's the meaning of this mundane life? I wake up every day, go to office, come back. What's the meaning of this life? The daily life, your life, not my life. Your very particular life, not a general life. There is no general human being. If God has created somebody in a particular town, in a particular way, there is specificities. If you believe that is the way, there must be some purpose to these specificities. You being brought up in a family, around certain friends, around certain conditions, which enriches your life, which has no discourse in probably most of these discourses of who you are, how much anxious, how much petty. What's the meaning of this life? Sometimes if you ask someone, who are you? They say, I'm a doctor, I'm an engineer and all. And now AI is going to do all those jobs. So what remains there? Who are you now? Who will you be? Not as an answer. What's the meaning of life now? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. And that's the question that religion is also making you ask yourselves. Who are you? And is it extra? And like, who? And then, okay, yeah. So tell me, who am I? This is not an external inquiry. That's the difference between even AI and a human being. For AI or even artificial intelligence, the purpose is external. You tell AI what to do. But for human beings, the purpose is internal. That's where morality comes from. It's internal. Not from any Maulana, not from any book, any text. Text, in that sense, is a dead text. How can it be living? And it's not a destination. Oh, truth is here, I have to reach here. The meaning of life is here. The meaning of life is here, I am here, I have to reach there. If it's here, it's static, it's dead. Truth is ever living all the time with you. It is dynamic. It can't be caught in that sense. So it has to be looked at. But when can we look at it? When we don't escape. When the mind quietens. These days we have a lot of stand-up comedians. They are like on a boom right now. It's come up like a huge market of it. And why is that? Because the absurdity of life is just, we are just facing it. The only thing we can do is laugh at it now. Because all these absurd acts, and that's what human beings are doing. The absurdity of life, you're facing it right now in front of you. What to do now? Either you can be pity or you can miserable. Because if you go by the mechanistic way of life, morning, dinner, lunch, breakfast, all those the mechanical acts that AI can do better than us. If that is, then they are definitely AI is taking us over. But if there is something more, and God says it again in Surah Baqarah, "Sanurihim ayatuna fil afaq wa fi anfusihim." I'll show you the signs in the horizon and in your own self. But we don't want to look at ourselves. Even when we are somewhere, we want to play something. Sometimes now people also sleep while listening to something. They are in their cars, they want to listen to something. When they're anywhere, every time they want to escape something. If they are doing nothing, then they want to eat something. Why are we doing that? It's so strange. Every time we want something to fill some vacuum inside us. Nobody can fill that. We have to fill it ourselves. And how is to listen to the inner voice through silence? I'm over, right? Is through listening to your own, not mindfulness, but mindlessness. The mind has to be quiet. The noise has to get quiet. And listen in your own specificities. What's the meaning of life? What's the meaning of my life? Me, myself, in a particular situation, as a man, as a South Asian, right now in AMI. What does this all? This all has to be given importance, not reduced. In any form, whatever you are, look at it by having that silence. Reaching that silence. Ma yalfazu min qawli illa. Stopping this noise for a moment. Don't let it escape. That's what grave would look like, actually, if we go in that sense. It would have been easy before mobiles were not there to be in the grave. Now it will be too difficult. Imagine. Right now, I tell somebody, you have to be alone in your room. They're like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm alone. But they presuppose that their phone is with them. It's a presupposition. Now from personhood, it's screenhood. Now we exist in screen. Constantly we need to be in touch. I'll end by this couple of 2 minutes. Akbar there's a story. I'm still from the generation where the wisdom used to come from grandma's story, then Instagram post. So I'm sharing one of the stories. There was a debate going on that what's the language of God in Akbar's court. So some say it's Sanskrit, some said it's Hebrew, some said it's Arab. Muslims said it's Arabic. Akbar was like, I need to solve this debate. What's the language of God? And one of the secretaries of Akbar said, you know what? I can solve this problem for you. It's like, what do? They will take newborn babies, we'll keep them in a house, and we'll make sure that nobody speaks to them for like a couple of years. And the language they speak in would be the language of God, because nobody had taught them anything. They're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Let's do that. So they bought a few babies and put them in a room. The people who were looking after them, it was said that don't speak or don't utter any word. After 6-7 years, it said, Akbar bought all of those children in the court and said that, okay, now speak the language of God. And nobody was able to speak, because you're only able to speak if you listen to something. They were not able to even say anything. And then Akbar concluded that maybe the language of God is actually silence. And silence is not absence of sound. Silence is very positive. It's this voice of your source. And you have to go back to your silence in your own way. A flower or a tree goes in its own direction. That's how by just providing sufficient conditions. And we have seen tomorrow We will be commemorating the death anniversary of Imam Ali. We look at his life, just the last minute and I'm done. How he was connected to that silence. Imagine being a Khalifa, being responsible for so many things. What will be and for his 4 years were full of war. How was he able to then sit with kids and play with them like as he was their friend? If we have 5 or 6 tasks to do, we won't be able to do it. And even on the day he was struck, it's said that, it's narrated that, and it's possible, I say. He said that he was sensitive about his killer as well. Like, make sure if we are in a pain or if we are suffering or stress, to be nice in a good mood is really easy. But when you are in a bad mood, stress, to be good at that time, to be nice at that time is difficult. But Ali showed in difficult times also, it's possible to be sensitive, and that sensitivity comes through when you are connected to your own silence. And since the story was long, I'll conclude that story in silence. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Arman. And I'm hoping there's going to be lots of questions for him because you've turned everything upside down, even for time for change. So I'm hoping lots of questions and comments from the crowd.
I think they have changed already.
Hi, assalamu alaikum, you okay? It was a really good talk, by the way. I had a question about the first few things you said. How any habit's bad. I've wrote it down. You said. In that case, referring to, let's say, 5 daily prayers, does that not build a habitual life in terms of good habits? And if you think habits are bad, should we then only pray or seek God when we feel the need to, as opposed to because it's Fajr time, Zohar time, Maghrib time? That's my question.
It's a jurisprudential question. Yeah, it's about how you look at a thing. You can do something daily and it's still not habit because you're very excited about it. Every time you see it, you feel lively. It doesn't become a habit. Habit makes the mind dull. Every time, for example, if it's a habit to have a morning coffee, I will never be excited about something that's habitual. So even if you do daily salah, it's that the memory shouldn't come in your judgment. The memory should in a way die because you're so excited about that thing. The memory doesn't play a role. So habit is based on memory. You have to dissociate from your memory because all our miseries mostly are because of a memory. So you're so much present that every time you are in the salah, you feel like you're playing salah for the first time through that energy. So does it answer the question?
In the beginning, you said about the layout of this layout, basically, the speaker audience. You said you're not convinced or agree with that layout. What is the ideal way of transferring knowledge according to you?
That's a T4C question here. So definitely dialogue is very important. And dialogue means when everybody has an opportunity to name a thing. Usually oppression is when somebody names a thing on your behalf. So what we can do is, now definitely a dialogue with 60 people is not possible, but those voices should be there. We have just one specific voice that goes on. So maybe a panel discussion and opening sessions, in the sense of panel discussion where there are voices from different sides, sects of the world, and problems that are really close to them. Maybe that would be a way, but definitely more centered towards where everybody gets a chance to name a thing. Yeah.
Okay, he stole my question as usual. But to kind of carry on from there, I think it's not only a change of format that can be enough to change. I think it's us changing as well, because I think we are so used to this one way, speaker audience thing, that we're not used to speaking. And you can see it from the very numerous questions you got today. That we are just used to receiving information. And I think it's unlearning that habit and get to a stage where we can actually, challenge the speaker and say, well, actually, I don't agree with you. Where do you get this from? Or I have a different opinion. So I think the change of so for example, and this is a T4C comment, by the way, even introducing a Q&A, that's something very new and different that we are not used to, and we need to slowly get used to it. And after 5 years now, people are a bit more comfortable. But I think that we can't completely change all formats until I think as a crowd as well and as an audience, we kind of realize that and we're ready to accept a difference.
Yeah. I think definitely, I think the point you raised, actually the part of learning is unlearning. And this is one of my interesting observation on this comment, because we need to change on that issue, is that for studying all these sciences, for example, it's psychology or chemistry, geography, we go to centers, like different centers, like it's a mixed crowd. But when it's about God and religion, we just go to our own centers, like our own religious centers. Isn't that ironical? Something that is limited, we go to places that has limitlessness. But something which is unlimited, we restrict it in our own rigid boundaries. Why does this happen? So yeah, definitely we need to approach things in a way of how we can unlearn, definitely, yeah.
So are you saying that Islam doesn't have all the answers? Are you saying that Islam doesn't have all the answers in that way? Or the way that it's taught to us?
What is your question?
As in what you were saying about going to...
Does Islam know my name? If you ask Quran, what's the name of the person I'm talking to? Would there be the name there in Islam? Would there be? I'm just saying, would there be the name? Or what you are going to wear tomorrow? Would that be in the Quran? So what type of questions are you looking? Definitely all answers no. First of all, what does it mean by Islam? How do we want to go about it? But definitely, why should all the questions be? There are certain approaches. They say even atom bomb is in the Quran. I don't go by that, sure, definitely. But yeah, I don't think so. It's a book of guidance. Not if we go by Quran, it's for guidance, and Quran hasn't said anywhere, or Prophet hasn't said that this is the only exclusive way of guiding. If you are not guided by here, it's the other way around. So definitely, is it convincing enough? I'm not claiming that others were brainwashing you and I'm not brainwashing you. I could be brainwashing you as well. So now don't let anybody have a chance to brainwash you. Is that you have an integrity. Unless and until I don't know, I'm not going to accept it. Have that authenticity. Have integrity. But which question? This question hasn't been answered properly. That is my integrity. I don't know. That is my integrity. And the brainwashing can only stop if we start living with proper integrity and authenticity. And I don't think God would have a problem, or Islam would have a problem with integrity.
Thank you, Arman. We'll let you off the hook for now. Just some final announcements. So tomorrow's program will be at the earlier time of 5 p.m. and we're carrying on with our series of Qari Sundays. So we'll start by Quran recitation by Qari Muhammad Ali, followed by Quran reflections and the talk by Dr. Panjwani, followed by Maghrib and Iftar. As tomorrow night will be the 19th night, we'll have a spiritual Qadr night program starting at 7:30 p.m. with Isha, Zikr by Dr. Panjwani and Duas. The full details have been posted on the poster on the WhatsApp group. Please note that for this extra program tomorrow night, there's no registration required and there will be no live streaming either. This Ramadan, T4C is supporting Kijana Kwanza in Tanzania. The details have been shared on our WhatsApp group, so please donate generously towards this charity. T4C also is very grateful for all the generous donations so far that we have received in Ramadan. We just kindly request you to help us cover the remaining cost of the month. So you can do so at the desk through card, cash, or using the QR link. Can I request you all also to recite a Surah Fatiha for all the marhumin whose names are on the screen, and all marhumin al-Fatiha. And lastly, tonight we have a Quran discussion circle that's going to start in about 10 minutes or so with Brother Shahid Merali. So it will be here in the chapel. So inshallah in 10 minutes, I hope we all join us for that. Thank you.